Today we're gonna answer one of the most, if not the most popular question that we get. And that question is, what do pools cost? We're gonna take a deep dive into this video as to what pools cost in a region by region basis and try to answer as many of your questions as we can. So let's take it from the top. We've got four main types of pools with a couple of subsets of types of pools. So the four main types of pools that you're going to see out there, you're gonna see your Gunite pools, your Shotcrete pools, your fiberglass pools, and your vinyl pools. Now let's dive into each one and what they are and kind of what that means to you. Talking about Gunite and Shotcrete. With your Gunite and Shotcrete pools, these are your concrete pools. These are the pools that are the most customizable, meaning you can make it what you want. You can make them big, you can make them small, they can fit in big areas, so on and so forth. You can do the water features. Now, these tend to be the most expensive pools. Timeline-wise, how long do those take to build? Well, if you've got a permit, a Gunite or Shotcrete pool will typically take you about 3 months to build, sometimes a little faster, sometimes a little longer. Key is getting the overall permit. So oftentimes, if you're starting in the spring, you can actually be swimming that summer. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the fiberglass pool. This is overall your lowest maintenance pool. And the very simple reason that a fiberglass pool is a lower maintenance pool is it's got to do with the shell surface. It is the least porous surface, which will actually inhibit bacterial growth, algae growth, all that good stuff. The other thing that's very nice about a fiberglass pool is they're extremely quick on the install. As long as we've got that permit, as I've said, the installation can be as little as 4 weeks, sometimes faster, sometimes a little bit longer, but fiberglass is much faster. Now, the problem with fiberglass is if you want a very large pool, we may not be able to do that. Typically speaking, you're not gonna see fiberglass pools that are 30 by 50 feet. You're going to see fiberglass pools that are more like 15 or 16 feet wide by about 30 foot long. The reason for this is very simple. It's shipping. We can only fit a pool so big on the back of a truck. Finally, let's go into vinyl pools. Vinyl pools are the least expensive of the options that we have on out there. Now, vinyl pools can be larger, they can be smaller. One of the challenges with vinyl pools is the length of time that they last. They generally will not last as long as a Gunite or a fiberglass pool. So typically speaking, you may have to replace that vinyl every 5 years, every 6 years, or if you puncture it, much sooner than that. But it does allow for a high level of customization. Now let's go into overall durability and maintenance with each of those pools. So with your Gunite and Shotcrete pools, they are not the Gunite and Shotcrete pools of the 80s or 90s. Everything today is done with automation. We've got some great automation options that are going to lower the amount of chlorine that you have to put in that pool. These can be things like ozone units and saltwater chlorine generators. The idea behind this is if it is done right, you should not ever smell chlorine in your pool. Same thing with fiberglass. It is a non-porous structure. It is a lower maintenance, in fact, the lowest maintenance pool between the three, and a lot of the same features are actually used within a vinyl pool. Other features that you're gonna have to take consideration of that nobody ever takes into consideration on these pools is it is your decking. That is one of the biggest costs on a pool. You're gonna have to look at the elevations within your yard, because we assume as we go in, almost every yard being flat, that's where you're gonna see a lot of these pools starting at the lower prices. The more elevation you have in your yard, that can actually increase the price because we're going to have to build walls in the pool. We may have to stabilize the pool, do some engineering, things of that nature. Now that we've covered the four main pool types, let's talk about the options that you can get on the pools, because the options oftentimes is what raises the price more than anything. And it's actually not necessarily the size of the pool so much that affects the cost of the pool, but do you put automation on? Do you put waterfalls on? So if we're looking at, for example, a very small natural rock waterfall, those may start, let's say, in about the $4,000 range. But the challenge with this becomes is the type of material that you're using. The bigger, the heavier the rock, traditionally speaking, the more expensive that waterfall gets. So realistically, whereas you may start at $4,000 or $5,000 for a waterfall, those waterfalls can go up in range to $10,000 or $15,000 if you're getting immense waterfalls. And for anything that's custom and very large, well, the sky is the limit. Another thing that we can also do is a hand-carved waterfall in many cases. These tend to be one of the most expensive water feature types because we have to have an artisan that will actually come on in there, and as the Shotcrete or Gunite are formed, we'll actually hand carve it. It's kind of almost like that Disneyland effect within those pools on out there, to where you are customizing that waterfall to look exactly like you want, and those, typically speaking, are about $15,000 and up. Other options, if we talk about automation, because most of what we do these days is frankly from your phone. You can actually control your pool from your phone. Let's say you're getting off work and you want to turn that spa on before you get home. Guess what? It can all be done from your phone. These are typically going to start at a couple thousand for the easier automation, going all the way up to $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 for the more advanced automation on your pool. Now, the automation is not just a remote control, but it's actually the motorization of the valves, the fire features on that pool that actually ends up costing the most. Other fun features, speaking of fire, there's a lot of automated fire that we can put on pools these days, not just fire and water bowls. We can do tiki torches, we can do lanterns. The nice part about putting fire on or around the pool is now you're really creating the theme in that entire backyard. And by illuminating that backyard, you're creating a much more warm and inviting environment. A couple of factors to consider when building those is, one, where are you pulling that gas source from? Because if you're out in the country and you've got a limited gas source, whether it's propane, that may not be a great option for you. Another factor is the overall cost of fire features. These bowls are going to start somewhere at about $2,500 to $3,000 and go up if we're doing some of the nice hammered copper or bronze ones. Same thing with the lanterns. Those are going to be a couple thousand and going up for the lanterns, because these are permanent lanterns. These are things that you would see at major resorts. They are gorgeous, but they can cost a little bit. Now, let's talk about some of the less expensive options, some of the funner options, and that is the LED lights, the illuminated lights that you're going to do in pools these days. We have lights that are capable of doing over 1 million color variations within your pool. And the neat part about this is, let's say you're doing the 4th of July. You can have your pool do a red, white, or blue theme. Adding the LED lights is one of the most cost-effective ways to add a lot of spice, a lot of flair to your pool on out there, because these are honestly, $500, $600 per light that you're gonna put, and realistically on most pools, you only maybe need 4 or 5 lights. Yes, you can get away with less, but the more lights you put in the pool, trust me, it is going to be worth every penny in the long run. So let's talk about a couple features for modern pools that you're gonna have. You're gonna have things like shear descents, which are essentially almost like bars of water that are actually coming out of the side of the wall on a pool. The nice part about those is those can also be illuminated as well to tie in with the overall theme and color of that pool. You can also have things like laminars or jets, which are gonna be jets that are coming out of the side of the pool. Now that we've covered a lot of the little features on the pool, let's talk about the starting price of pools. The great thing about how we price pools is you're not locked into any package of things that you don't want, and you're only paying for the features that you do want in pools. The great thing is we've got offices from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, and service over 30 states within the country. Let's talk about where some of these pool prices are gonna start. So let's go over the prices nationally. First, we're gonna talk about fiberglass pools. If we start within the Austin market, we've got fiberglass pools starting as low as $40,000. If we go all the way to St. Louis, we've got fiberglass pools starting at $50,000. If we look at Yuma, Arizona, fiberglass is at $42,000. Long Island, New York, fiberglass is starting at $51,000. And finally, if we're looking at Raleigh, we've got fiberglass starting at $46,000. For our next set of pools, we're gonna talk about the Shotcrete and Gunite pools. If we talk about the Dallas market, those Gunite Shotcrete pools are gonna be starting at $53,000. In Fresno, California, those are gonna be about $42,000. In Temecula, California, you're gonna start about $46,000. In Cincinnati, you're gonna be starting at about $50,000. And finally, in Florida, in Orlando, you're gonna be starting at about $50,000 for those concrete pools. Now that we've talked about the 4 main types of pools, we've also given you a great idea of where those gonna start. Keep in mind, not every pool type is built in every market. Also, keep in mind, this is your pool. You can get whatever you want or don't want on that pool. What we do recommend is take a look through the website, pick out 5 to 10 pictures of pools that you absolutely love, and then give us a call, contact us, because we'd love to come on out and help you build your dream pool.